What are we whispering about? Hello, welcome to the Fairy Whispering Podcast with me, Claire Casely, and I've got a lovely guest today that I'm really excited to have on, Karen Kay, who is a best-selling Hay House author and Fairy and Mermaid Whisperer. Karen connects to the elemental realms, bringing through ancient wisdom from fairies, mermaids, and unicorns into our realm. Karen is the author of Oracle of the Fairies, Messages from the Mermaids, and the forthcoming Manifesting with the Fairies Oracle deck. Welcome, Karen.
Oh, hi, Claire. I'm so happy that we're finally speaking. Yay.
You've got so much going on in the fairy world, haven't you? It's just incredible. And I'm really interested to ask you about your childhood and your connection with fairies and how it all started.
So it started, as in my introduction, in my grandmother's garden. That's my first recollection. It may have started at a different time, but that's my first memory that I can remember. So she loved flowers. She lived in Charlton in southeast London and had the most magical garden. She loved flowers. And I'm convinced that she lived next door to two human gnomes. There was two guys, they were brothers and they lived next door and they looked like gnomes. When I go back in my mind, it's like, and they loved flowers too. And they were always out in their garden. And I just remember I was quite short. I think I was between 5 and 7 years old, something around there. And she would be pruning her flowers and she had all of the natural flowers, so not hybrids, and they all smelled just so beautiful. The fragrance, I can remember that kind of soft creamy rose. I loved wild real roses and that stayed with me all my life. And as she'd be pruning, the petals would fall down and I would gather them all up and put them in a pot, add some water and create what I believed was perfume. It was actually rose water, but I was making perfume for the flower fairies. And then I'd leave it out. There's in her garden, there's a garage and there's this thin little opening between the neighbour's garage and hers, and I could never get through it now, but when I was little I went down this. It was like a secret passage and I would leave the perfume for the fairies there, and then the next day I'd go and check and it would always be gone. Now you could say, well, an animal drank it or it evaporated, but in my little innocent childhood heart, I just knew that the fairies were grateful and that they took it. And so I would perceive them as little points of light. And at the time, I didn't really know what fairies were. My ego hadn't fully developed. So this was all a very kind of natural occurrence. It was just very natural and real to me. And I would see them as tiny little points of light darting around, which you often hear people describe their experiences as. So I didn't know then, but I know now that's what was happening. And then just moving forward like a few years, as I became a teenager, I became like, are fairies cool? And you get a little bit rebellious in your teenage years, and I thought, well, are they cool, and am I really seeing fairies, or is there something wrong with my eyes? So I went to the opticians. I didn't say, hey, I think I'm seeing fairies. I went and I just went for a general eye test and I had 20/20 vision. It was all good. So when I came out, I knew that what I was seeing was actually fairies, and they always kind of present in that way, although I have seen them in their full kind of fairy guise, if you like, as well. But usually it's points of light and a feeling, like a very strong feeling.
Yeah, and what you're saying about this space between the garage and the house, is it between the garage and the house? It's like a little in between place, isn't it? And they like in between places.
Yeah, liminal places. They're everywhere, aren't they?
And I've spoken to a few people that have experienced fairies that seem to be traveling on pathways as well. So maybe maybe it could have been a fairy pathway, who knows? But
Yeah,
that's a wonderful experience to have as a
yeah.
child. And like you say, it all starts with childhood, doesn't it? This connection.
I feel
And
like it does
yeah,
because we're more open. Our critical mind hasn't really come in then, so we're in much more of a space of acceptance, and just whatever experiences happen, we accept them as natural and real, because it is natural. Supernatural is natural. It's just supernatural, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. It's I like to call, there's the paranormal, but I think it's just all normal. It needs to be, seen as a normal thing that we do as human beings that we can access.
Yeah.
And hopefully through your work and the work I'm doing here and other researchers and podcasters, we're opening that door a bit more for people to see that this is something that a lot of people experience and believe in.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
and that's so true. And through my work, especially with Fae magazine, I get so many people that message and email me and call me sometimes with their tales, their stories of their
Mm.
fairy encounters. And when I use the word fairy, it encompasses the whole elemental realm. So it's just easy to use that word rather than go into all the different types of names for all the different types of beings. We'd be here forever and a day, wouldn't we, otherwise? So
Yeah.
lots of people share their stories, but a lot of people don't want to come out in a public way. So for those of us that are doing that, it is a big step, because like coming out of the fairy closet, I say I've come out
Yeah.
of the fairy closet.
Mm.
I'm kind of more mature in my years to be able to take any kind of criticism that comes my way, but it feels like, I don't know if it's a self-given mission or just an obsession or something I just feel that I've got to do in the world. And I certainly feel supported in that work by my fae friends, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I'm interested in what your first steps were into going from having these early fairy experiences and then think, oh, going to create fairy events. And because your background, as we said at the beginning, was in the BBC, and then I think most of us have in this kind of work have an old life. So what was that transition like from your old life into this new life, this wonderful
Yeah,
life working with Fairy?
it's really interesting because I was also into punk rock and I was a goth, and I went with all the different trends, but I always needed to be different within those as well. Interestingly, so if I was in a goth club and everyone was wearing black, I'd have to wear white or red or something different. It's just in me to just be like that. But I did find some photographs where I used to dress as a goth fairy, like a fairy goth
Oh,
mother, and I would have like a little black sparkly tutu. And I've got the pictures somewhere because I actually
yeah,
did an interview for Gothic Beauty magazine about that, which is
yeah.
really interesting. But it is like,
Oh,
it's like reincarnating within a single life. So I remember all of those times in my life, most of them anyway, and it just feels like a natural progression. But if you told me then what I'd be doing now, I would have laughed. I would have been, no way would I be doing that. That's just not on the cards. Excuse the pun.
yeah,
I just
yeah.
wouldn't have imagined that it would progress, because I was all in lots of bands and I just had a very, very different lifestyle. But the
Mm.
fairies have always been there. And one of my first tattoos was a fairy on my shoulder.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which I need
Yeah.
to get freshened up a bit because
Mm.
it's very, very many moons ago, that one. And it's that energy's just always been with me. I've always had an interest in the supernatural, the occult, all of that sort of thing. And as I was younger, I was into more of the, I don't know how to describe it, just more occulty stuff, because the people that
Mm.
I was with were all into that, and it was just natural. But then I kind of stepped more into the other side, and it's all, the thing is, we see the dark and we see the light, and you I choose to stand in the light, but to stand fully in the light, you need to have gone into that darkness and to know that darkness. And it doesn't mean darkness is evil or bad. It's just different. And we experience this within our own lives. And I certainly did when I was younger and in my more mature years as well. We all go through these things. It's a part of the human experience. And so the evolution, I remember, so I'd be reading books about candle magic and some really interesting, like Golden Dawn books that people probably wouldn't associate with me, because they very often people just see what they see on social media and think, oh, she's a fluffy fairy person, la, 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 la. And it's like, yeah, I am that as well, but I do have a background too. And through my explorations and my connections with the Fae, it's brought me into the place that I am now. So I started looking at affirmations and the work of Louise Hay when I was a teenager. And I thought, oh, it'd be really nice to be published with Hay House. And I used to write down my wishes as a little wish list. I never really thought about it. I never really did anything about it at that time, but it was a seed that was planted quite young, early on in my life. And so the progression from, and the events, I'll tell you, I know I'm talking a lot, I do.
No, but this is wonderful. Carry on, because you're answering, I'm thinking of questions, you're answering questions. So carry on.
Telepathic interview. Yay. I like those. These are the best. So moving forward to when my children were born, I was 25 and they were both in a play group and it needed some money. So I decided that I'd organise a little local spiritual fair to raise some funds for the play group. And that was in, I don't think, 94, 95. So that was the first spiritual event that I did. And there were even fairies there, like somebody turned up with a fairy stall. And in those days, there was no social media, there was no internet. All I had was a local telephone box and a copy of, I think it was the Yellow Pages, or so, I don't even know if they had the Yellow Pages then, I think it was, but it was a phone directory. And I literally just went through it looking at all kind of mind, body, spirit, new age things. And I was cold calling people saying, hey, I'm doing this little event in Lost with Your Community Centre in Cornwall. And would you like to come along? And most people just said no, but then a lot of people said yes. And it ended up just being really busy, and it completely sold out, like all the stalls, and there was workshops. I don't know how I did it. I definitely had help from my ethereal friends. I know that.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like you've had guidance from the fairies
definitely
along the way. Yeah.
And also there was part of also my inspiration for doing, because you might say, well, why did you organize a spiritual event? Why didn't you do a car boot sale or something like this? But I'd been to another event in Cornwall about a year or two prior to the one that I organized. And when I got there with my two young children, it was a spiritual event. I said, oh, have you got any facilities for children? And I was told, this is not for children, this is a business. And I was mortified. And I really needed at that time, because I was really struggling at the time, and I really needed some self-care. And I thought, if I go to this event, I can get some healing, or I can do things, but I couldn't do it with two young toddlers in tow. It was really challenging. And they basically said that it wasn't a place for children. And so at that point, and I thank the person that said that to me now, because that is what propelled me to the events that I do. I just said, children will always be welcome at my events. Now, this is a proviso with the fairy balls, because that's an adult evening event, but during the daytime, children are always welcome at the festival, at the fairs, always, because they're a part of our community, and they are the future. So I think it's really nice for them to be around this kind of environment.
Yes, and I can vouch for the child friendliness of your wonderful fairy festival, which I've come to a couple of times with my kids. I came a couple of, oh gosh, when was it? About 3 years ago, and they're a bit young, quite a lot younger. I think it's 2019. And we had so much fun, and we were wandering around. They dressed up. I got them to dress up, even my son.
Oh, I love it.
to think, oh yeah, I did a fairy walk. I was doing some fairy walks,
Yes, I
and
remember that. Yes, I
yeah,
do.
which
Oh,
was lovely, and they enjoyed it. It was good for them. It's good for children to encounter this way of being, isn't it?
yeah,
And the fun, and seeing adults having fun as well.
definitely,
And
definitely.
we bumped into Brian Froud walking his dog and had a
Yeah.
chat with him, and yeah, so it was amazing.
Yeah, you never know who you're going to see walking around at the fairs, and very often they're not advertised because they're coming as because they love the event. So we've had a few interesting people turn up just wandering around, and people are like, what? And even like Daisy May Cooper came to, I think she's been a couple of times,
Mm.
and I didn't know. And I really wanted, because we're friends now, but I didn't know that she was at my event when she came, and I really wanted to kind of say hello. And someone was like, there's somebody here that really looks like Daisy May Cooper. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then they're like, it is her. And she messaged me and said she loved the event, and she's wanted to come back again. And that's so lovely. But she comes as like us, just, I mean,
Mm.
she is a normal person, like us, so sometimes they just want to come and enjoy things without being bombarded by kind of autograph hunters and things like that. But it's also nice. She's really,
Yeah.
really friendly, and Brian is, and Wendy is too. They're really super friendly, and they're always happy to talk, and they love to meet, because they're like the, I don't want to say the pioneers, but almost the founders of the fairy community, certainly within the UK, with his art, which is really quite groundbreaking at the time.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. It's just because Brian, he lives near me up in Chagford. I went to a
Yes.
talk of his a few weeks ago that he did in Chagford, and like you say, he's just really happy to chat
Yeah.
and sign books, and yeah, so
Yeah. He's
nice.
so sweet.
Yeah.
He's so lovely. And we share the same birthday as well. So we're both born on the same day, which is
Oh,
interesting as well. Yeah.
oh, right. What's your star sign then?
Taurus. I'm a Taurus.
Taurus.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a
Yeah.
Capricorn. So you're sort of earthy, aligned with perhaps the earthy elementals like gnomes and
I
stuff.
am. I
Yeah,
love gnomes. I don't
yeah.
talk about gnomes very often, but actually, I love gnomes. And you can't see here, but I
Mm,
literally have gnomes everywhere and in my garden too. Like I love their energy, and yeah, I really
mm,
love their energy. So just kind of cycling back a little bit
yeah.
to when I did the spiritual event. So it just kind of started a momentum then. So I wasn't thinking, hey, I'm going to start a spiritual business and I'm going to do this and that. It just happened naturally. But then it became so much work that it because it was for charity originally, but it was taking up
Right.
so much of my time. I decided that I would make that a part of my work, and then I would donate a proportion of the takings to charity, which is something that I like to do, but I don't talk about it a lot. um and then I can't remember when the fairies first fully came in, because I started doing oh, what was the first one? I think it was the Fairy, Angel and Healing Fair in St John's Hall in Penzance, and that was back in early 2000. And
Yeah.
I remember
Mm,
it was funny because I was like, the fairies just wanted to come in. They were just, you know, when their energy is ready
yeah.
and you're open and receptive to that, they just come in and inspire you and propel you. And they open these fairy doors, metaphorical fairy
Mm,
doors, that just seem to open and magic happens. And I was like, right, I have to include fairies in my events. And it was funny because some of the angel people were like, fairies, but the fairy people were really open to everybody. So it didn't quite gel at first, but then once one kind of fairy person came with their stall or whatever they were doing, art and crafts, then more were coming. All these people were coming out of the woodwork. And I'd known Brian's work for a long time, Brian Froud's work, and I just remember thinking, he paints what I see. And it was like somebody
mm,
else, because sometimes you feel, especially fairy people, you can feel quite isolated. You can feel like, is it just me? Am I the only one seeing this stuff? And when I saw his art, it just was like, wow, I need to connect with this person. And so I remember writing to his agent in America, because I knew he literally only lived down the road, but I didn't know where, and I certainly wouldn't just go knocking on someone's door. So I had to write to him through his agent, and I just wasn't getting nothing back, and I didn't know if the letters ever got to him or not. And then one of my friends said, oh, did you know that Brian Froud is doing a book signing in Truro at Ottakers? It's changed now. I can't remember what the store is now.
Waterstones, I think.
Waterstones, but it used to be Ottakers, a beautiful independent little bookstore with amazing books. And I was like, right, I'm going. So I went armed with my his first oracle deck that he did. I can't remember the name. Was it the Fairies Oracle, spelled in a different Fairy, Faeries?
Yes.
And I went there not knowing if I would get a chance to see him, if I could even ask him to sign it. And miraculously, I found myself at the front of the queue, and he just had all the time in the world for me. And he was so lovely and gracious. And I said, I've been writing to you via your agent in America. And he said, I never got any of the letters. I was like, oh, but he's like, but you're here now and I'm here now. And I'm like, yeah, that's amazing. And I told him about my events, and he said, I've heard of your events and I've heard of you. And I said, well, would you and Wendy like to come to one of my fairy events? And he said, yeah. And he gave me his number and his email. And this was, I can't remember, it must have been 2005 or 2006, because we definitely had emails by that point. And I'm trying to remember it in my mind, because it all just happened so quickly. But he just said, yeah, we'll come. And so they came. And Toby was in the country as well. So we had Wendy, Brian and Toby and Josephine Wall, Linda Ravenscroft, all the kind of, I don't want to say the great and the good of the fairy world in the art world, but it was the great and the good of the fairy art world, definitely all there in one place. It was incredible. And this was at a little venue called the Acorn in Penzance. And it's interesting because it's called the Acorn, and it's like, from little acorns, look what's grown from that. And that was the year that the fairy community within the UK really gelled. And it's interesting as well, because Armorel Hamilton was there. It was the first time I'd met her, and we're really good friends from there to now. And it's just amazing seeing how all these people came out of the woodwork, felt like they were on their own in this, and realized there's actually a community where everybody feels like they're the only one, but they're not. And it was just beautiful. So they were really, really beautiful beginnings. And I just feel so blessed that I was able to hold the space for that to happen. And it's just grown and grown and grown. And now there's like fairy events all over the country. They were already in America, I knew that, but I'd never seen them. But in the UK there wasn't anything. I think there might have been a children's fairy festival somewhere, but I did the first fairy events in the UK, and I'm really proud of that as well, because it's helped so many people as well, and I feel very, very blessed.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. I mean, that's amazing. What an amazing achievement and thing to lead the way on. I mean, I know the people that I talk to, and like you say, it's just being able to share experiences and talk in this way about fairies and express your fairy self, all of those things. I mean, which are big things these days, and it's just
really
yeah.
It's not, see, some people like, oh, you're just dressing up as fairies. It's like, no, we're not. This isn't cosplay. This is real. It's not fantasy. This is real. And I think some people just don't get that. And that's fine, because some people do come because they love seeing everyone dressed up in the beautiful outfits. But as you say, we're expressing our inner fae self. So however that wants to manifest. And over the years, and I don't know how I've done this, but since I think my first Glastonbury fairy event was in 2009, I believe. And I can't believe how quick that's gone. But I remember having like a theme, and I thought, oh yeah, a theme, that'll be really fun. And every year I'm like, how do I get, but the themes just come, and I've already got my themes as far ahead as October next year. Like they just come through, and it's like, yes, and you just know when it's a great theme that people can really get their creative teeth into.
It's really exciting. And I looked online today and I saw that your ball in October has already sold out, the witchy
fairy
theme.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, I've got to come to the one next March because that's the Freudian theme.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got to go to that.
Yeah. They do tend to sell out, and it's getting earlier and earlier when I release the tickets, which is really great. And there's always people that are like, oh no, it's sold out. It's like, I always let people know, and it's just, that's just what's happening. And unless I can find a bigger venue or push the walls of the town hall, but not literally, to fit more people in, we can't do it. So I need a bigger venue, really. And that's why I'm really excited, because the Fairy Festival is moving to Glastonbury next year, which is super exciting. And that is we've got room to breathe and play and dance now. So it's a nice location. I can't reveal just yet where it is, but it is right on the outskirts of Glastonbury, and we've got the view of Glastonbury Tor in the background. So it's very magical, and I'm really, 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 really excited about that as well.
That's so exciting. It's like a progression, isn't it? Things are all sort of moving forward for you, and there's more people, like you say, that are connecting with fairies through various means. I mean, it's become such a popular topic. It's really exploding at the moment. That's my feeling anyway. And I think it's because more people are coming forward, talking about fairies, talking about experiences. Your work, as I said, other people, things I'm doing in my own small way, and then on YouTube and podcasts around the world, there's so many people that are talking about the paranormal, the realities. So it's just becoming huge. What do you think that's a sign of, that this growing interest that people are having in fairies?
Ultimately, I feel that it's about our connection to the earth, because fairies are guardians of the earth. So I think it's people realizing that the earth isn't really separate to us. We're living on it, but we're also living in harmony with it, and it's a part of us, and we're a part of it. So it's that realization which then connects you to all of the spirit beings, all the earth spirits, all the nature spirits, whatever you want to call them. I don't call them nature angels, because angels are a totally different breed, if you like, to fairies, and it does often get confused. And fairies have had a kind of bad press, really, over the years, getting associated with some not nice stuff. And there are elements. I mean, if you walk into someone's house in the middle of the night, you're not going to get a warm welcome if you don't know them. And if you look at that as when you're kind of, I don't want to say trespassing, but in effect we are on their land in certain places, then they will trip you up, they will push you over, they will drop an acorn on your head or whatever they do. And so it is you can't kind of just go la 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 skipping into fairyland and thinking everything's going to be all sparkly and shiny, although it can be that too. But it's going in with a conscious awareness that these are other beings do have a reputation, and that reputation hasn't come from nowhere. And it's about just being respectful, the same way that you would, or in a similar way that you would when you're meeting a new person or a friend. You have a mutual respect for boundaries, for space, for etiquette, and all of these things. And I find, for me anyway, I speak from my kind of personal interaction, that it is similar when you're dealing with the fae.
I'd love to hear if you'd like to share any of your experiences with fairies.
Well, I have
got
an experience. I've got lots of experiences, but there's one that I haven't spoke about a lot. And Liz Williams from Glastonbury, she wrote about, I shared this experience with her, and she wrote about it for a pagan website. I can't remember what it was called, and I think it was the first time that I've kind of shared this story, so it's not one that I talk about a lot, but I think you and your viewers and listeners might be interested. So it was exactly this case of, I'm going to go to a sacred fairy site and I'm going to go and say hey to the fairies and la 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 la. And it was in France, and I'd read this book by Hamish Miller and Paul Broadhurst called The Sun and the Serpent, which some of you may know, about dowsing. And there's all these ley lines, and there's this place in France called Dolmen de la Fayres, and the place where the fairies meet. And I was like, right, let's go there. And so we drove from the UK to France, and we arrived at this place. It was really dark and late at night, but it didn't feel very fairy, and it didn't feel very welcoming. And it felt quite spooky and scary and dark. And it's like, I really wasn't expecting this. And as we got out of the van, and I just heard this big no, and I looked at the actual dolmen stones, and I could see all of these little kind of green eyes peering out, like loads of them. And I'm tingling now as I'm sharing it. But they were like peeking out, and it felt scary. It was scary because I was in a new country, and it hadn't encountered anything like this before. And they just said no. And I was like, I'm not going to argue with that. So we went back in the van, and we decided to leave the area and then come back the next day. Whatever direction we drove in, we kept coming back to the same place. It was a bit like the Twilight Zone or one of those kind of horror movies, but it was really happening. And it was like, this is getting a bit intense now. And we were driving, and it felt like we were driving for ages. And then how can we be here again? It was like we were definitely being pixie-led or fairy-led, whatever you want to call it. And in the end, we were so tired because we'd been driving all the time. And so we decided to go to sleep. We were in the aura of the dolmen stones, but right on the very edge where it felt like it was okay. And then about 4 o'clock in the morning, 4 or 5 in the morning, I get woken up with this voice, you can come now. And I'm like really sleepy, and I'm like, oh. And then it said, you can come now. And I was like, oh no, it's too early. It's too early. Oh gosh. So it was like, okay, once you hear these very kind of commanding voices, you don't have to act on them like the voices told me to do it, but instinctively I knew that I'd been sussed out, I'd been scanned overnight to make sure that I was okay. And so we went back in, and it was a completely different experience. It was so different. It was light, it felt welcoming, and it was a really big lesson for me, because basically we turned up unannounced, me thinking, well, I like fairies and I do fairy events in the UK, so I can go anywhere. I felt like it was my goddess given right to just go in. And it was a real steep, sharp learning curve for me, that you can't do that. Just because you love and respect and care about fairies doesn't mean you can just go walking into their home. And also it turned out that this particular place had been frequented by unruly teenagers building fires and leaving glass bottles, so it wasn't being respected. So it's understandable why they would be cautious about letting humans come into their space. So I really got that and felt very humbled by the experience.
Yeah, that's a wonderful share, Karen. I mean, and so many resonances from talking to other people, of things I've heard, my own experiences of going into places and feeling that, that energy of you're not supposed to be here, or it feels a little bit dark, but like you say, fairies are dark and light, like us. Can't have the light without the dark. And I think they have a different understanding of what's good and bad, and they're just not thinking on the same wavelength as us. But as you say, they are very protective of their spaces and can't just stomp in there and say we're here to make the world better.
I know. It's so I know it really was a good lesson for me, a really good lesson for me. And the next day when we did go in there, we ended up composing this song inside the Dolmen Stones called Dolmen de la Fées, and it's on what album is it on? It's on, oh my gosh, I think it's on Through the Fairy Portal, the last album that I did with Michael Tingle. And that also included some poetry set from Water de la Mer, set to music, and some channeled, I don't like using the word channeled, but it came through about the Reverend Robert Kirk and Aberfoyle, and a whole song came through about that as well, which is on that album.
Wow, I've got goosebumps.
Yummy.
It's like, you all right, Karen?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you this now. We've checked you out.
It does feel like that. It does feel like that. It really does. And I know it's not just me. I know lots of people receive these inspirations and guidances. It's like, it's too much for one person anyway, but there's lots of really good people doing really good work in spreading the word, and including yourself and many other people who are around the world, just sharing, being good press for the Fae. It's what we need.
Definitely. Yes, and talking about your work and what you're doing and manifesting, you've got some wonderful cards coming out that I know about.
I'm so excited.
The
deck is called, I mean, I'm still amazed that I've got one deck out, and then I've got another mermaid deck, and then I've got another deck coming out called Manifesting with the Fairies, and that's based on my personal experience of working with the fairies, and also it's like there are so many things about manifesting. It's like manifesting is the new black now, isn't it? It's like the word that everybody's using, everybody's on, and it's great, really it's great because it's realizing that we're co-creators, whether we want to choose to manifest with any allies, spirit guides, ancestors, fairies, mermaids, whoever we want to, or just from ourselves. People will always say, well, it's you doing it ultimately, which it is, because we have the intention. But when you co-create with the Fae, always on their terms, like they're not little genies that you can just say, oh, I want this and I wish for that, because as we know, they can be mischievous sometimes as well. And but working with them for things, it does include material things, but really it's also about manifesting health, well-being, vitality, courage, confidence, manifesting peace within us, things that we wouldn't really associate with manifesting, but we can, and we can call on the Fae to help us with this. And in my new deck, I've written a guidebook that gives affirmations and little techniques, proactive, like actual physical things that we can do to work with them and to bring these different elements into our lives. And that's coming out in December, early December.
Exciting.
I can't wait to start. I'm talking about it now, but to really start talking about it properly. I think this is the first time I've really gone into any detail on it. The artwork is by a wonderful artist called Jane Delaford Taylor, and most people know her for her angelic work.
Right.
She contacted me quite a few years ago through Fae magazine and sent me her fairy work, which not a lot of people were familiar with. So when my publisher commissioned the deck and I said I'd like to work with her, and they was like, oh, she does angels, and I'm like, no, she does fairies. And I showed them some of the work that she'd sent to me, and they're like, we didn't know that. So it's been a real joy working with her, because I see the visions. Because you're a very visual person too, aren't you? And I'm very visual, and I see the visions when the information's coming through, and then I kind of write it down and describe it and then send it to the artist, and then it's their job to interpret that whilst putting their own flavor in as well, obviously. And I really like to, it's like it is a co-creation, you know, but obviously they're doing the hard work of the actual painting, and you're an artist too, so you'll understand that. I can paint blobs and matchstick people, and I did draw some mermaids once when I first moved to Cornwall, but I don't consider myself to be that type of an artist.
That's quite a skill, isn't it, to work co-creatively on bringing your vision and forward and working with an artist so that they can interpret your ideas. I mean, it's a wonderful process, I imagine.
Oh, it's really good. And this, as you know, with fairies, there's so much detail, like the tiniest detail, and even though the cards are kind of quite small, that I had to have the details in there, certain elements that just were non-negotiable. Sometimes they're like, why? And I'm like, it just has to go in there. Okay.
Have you got an example of the cards with you? Are they not?
I don't.
No, not at the moment.
I don't have my own deck yet, but they're already up on Amazon for pre-order. And I'll be doing on my social media and my website, I'll be doing a little promotion where when people pre-order, they can get access to some bonuses that I'll be doing, including a little course and things like this to supplement the deck. So
exciting.
If you want to see the deck, have a peek on Amazon. It's already on.
I'll put the link up for people on the video, and so people can have a look.
So excited. In time for the festive season too, for the solstice, and I'm really, really excited.
And you've got one of your decks with you today, haven't you?
I'm always surrounded. Honestly, if you could see my desk, I'm not going to move the camera, but it is covered in cards and wands and sparkles and crystals. And Armorel made this one. That was for my
amazing.
It's like a mer wand, merfay wand. Armorel is an incredibly talented lady. So I've got my Oracle of the Fairies deck, which is this one.
Oh, isn't that fabulous? Wow. I love the
like me to pull a card?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's see. A card for the collective. See what comes out. I'm especially oh, this is so interesting because this came out yesterday. Transformation.
Oh wow, that makes me tingle. That's I pulled out a similar card before we came on, but tell me what's the message.
So well, basically, and I don't read off my own card. There's a little explanation there for some people. Just see the image and then they let their imagination go. Because I've already written the deck, I don't really read it. I just go by what I'm getting in the moment. So the transformation is allowing yourself to transform and letting go of things that no longer serve us, that no longer serve you, and this can be really, really challenging as a human, because we get set in our ways, especially as a Taurus, a Taurian, like change and things like that. But I'm starting to embrace the change now, and transformation is about embracing the change and just knowing, what if what comes next is even better than what was before? Invariably it is, usually it is, but we can have, as humans, this, like, I don't want to use the word fear, but I will use it because it just explains it, like a fear of change, not wanting to change, keeping things the same, thinking that we're in control when we do that, when actually we're never in control, ever. We just think we are, but we're never in control. And allowing that change and that transformation to occur. And it doesn't have to be a big grand transformation. There can be like mini transformations happening every day in little ways. Sometimes we don't even notice it. So yeah, transformation, and it's allowing, and people might say, well, how can that card be for everyone? Well, it is for everyone.
Yeah.
It is for all of us, because there'll be a time, or many times in our lives, where we have these transformative moments, and it's about, if you can let go, surrender to it. And like I said at the beginning, it could be better than how things are now. And that's the beauty of it. It could be better. And usually it is, when we can surrender. It's like a reward of that surrender is, oh, wow, I wish I'd surrendered sooner to this transformation. So, yeah.
And of course, fairies are all about transformation and, yeah, sort of shape shifting into different forms. And so it's, like you say, as we get older, it's like going back into that childlike self, isn't it? The like dressing up and pretending.
Yeah.
And as we get older, we become a bit more fearful about doing that and change. But like you say, it's a really positive thing. It can be a really positive thing. So thank you for that message, Karen. I really hope that helps other people listening. It's certainly given me a bit of breathing space.
Being gentle with ourselves and not giving ourselves a hard time. And transformations aren't always like a skip through the daisies, through the daisy field. It can be really, really challenging, super challenging, but that is where the biggest growth comes from, and the greatest joy ultimately as well. Like, sometimes we get dragged kicking and screaming into these new situations. We know it's going to happen anyway. It's like, make it easier on ourselves and let go and go with it and just see what happens. But that's a disclaimer. I don't take any responsibility for anybody's transformation. It's free will, always free will.
Yeah, free will, and we are such powerful creators, aren't we? So
we are.
That comes back to your manifestation deck, and what we can create. We have the power to create wonderful things in our lives, just as we have the power to create difficult things.
We're choosing all the time. We are choosing all the time, whether it's consciously or unconsciously. And with the deck and the guidebook, there it is guidance. It's like little signposts that I'm offering, that I'm sharing, of things that have worked for me. So a lot of the stuff that I share is from my own personal experience. I've just got to stop for 1 minute and just say, are you aware that there's a little pixie peering over your shoulder in the way you're framed now?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's one of my paintings.
I love it. He's just like peeping over your shoulder. It's perfect for you, Claire. I love it. It was just like a little bit distracting, but he definitely wants to be known, to be seen and acknowledged. So I acknowledge you. Is it a pixie? It's a pixie, yeah?
Well, it's kind of, I'll tell you the story behind this one. It's this was a beam that I saw in some woods with my son a few years ago. And he was like superimposed on a tree trunk.
Whoa.
The way he was superimposed, it looked like he was healing a tree.
Yeah.
So that's what he's doing in this picture. He's healing a tree.
Beautiful.
And so he's quite tall. He's bigger than a pixie, and his face was quite like dog-like as well.
Yeah. Very beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for showing that and for painting it. It's really, really lovely. And you made a point there that he's quite tall. So this is something else that I realised through another fairy experience that I had. They're not all tiny, are they? Like
No.
some of them are literally giants.
Yeah.
And it really blew my mind when I saw a giant fairy as tall as a tree, as tall as a tree. And I was driving down the A30. I'll just share quickly if I've got time.
Yeah, no, you have. Yeah, please carry on. Yeah.
So I was driving down the A30, a journey that I've done a million times, maybe not that much, but a lot of time, hundreds of times. And I just noticed these giant legs out of the corner of my eye over where the trees were on the side of the road. And it was just a peripheral thing because I'm being careful and I'm driving and I'm focusing on the road, but I could see these big legs. And so I just quickly glanced and followed the legs up, and the knees went up to like nearly the top of the tree, a giant tree. And there was what you might describe as a typical kind of flower fairy type energy. Just standing, and it just threw me. And I went home and I was like, what was that? Like, I don't drink. I hadn't been drinking. I hadn't been taking anything at all. I was just totally normal. And I saw this and just thought, wow, I thought they were little, but that definitely wasn't little. And then I did a bit of research after and saw that, yeah, that because I just assumed that fairies were always little, like their energy and their energy bodies were always small, but this was literally as big as a tree. And then it came to me like a fairy will be as big or as small as the thing that it is connected with, whether it's a tree, a plant, a bush, a flower, whatever it is, that's the size that they will be.
Yeah.
So this fairy was the size of a tree, and you could say, but trees have dryads, and you can label it however people can label these things however they want. And that's something else I tuned into the fairies about, like how, because I used to use the Faery spelling, the old Celtic spelling. Then I went for the Faerie spelling, and then I ended up with just the typical fairy Fairy, because everyone knows what you're talking about when you say that. And I was finding when I was using the Celtic spellings, people were like, it was too many questions about the spelling. And so I connected in with the fairies and I said, tell me, how should I spell you? How should I spell this? And they said to me, we care not for your human spellings. All we care is for your intentions.
Whoa.
Yeah, powerful. That was so, and I feel it every time and that's how it came through. And I was like, okay, I don't want to get, because we get caught up in the small stuff, the labels. We love labels.
Yeah, I find it confusing, Karen.
It can be really confusing. So that kind of settled my heart and my mind with that. And it's like, yeah, they really don't mind how it's spelled. So
no, it's about keeping it simple, isn't it? It's about going back to those childlike ways, and setting that intention. I mean, that's my approach to magic and connecting with fairies. Just keep it simple.
Yeah.
Be polite. Make your intentions. Go and connect with them. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, and then that's the way you build that connection, isn't it? It's just that give and take, like any relationship.
Definitely.
Well, Karen, thank you so much for your time. I'd love you to share where people can find you and how they can connect with you, and anything else you've got coming up that you want to share.
Ooh. Right. Okay. So my website is probably the central hub of where you can find everything, which is just my name, Karen, KAY.co.uk, KarenK.co.uk. I'm on social media, pretty much all the platforms, and it's just Karen K Fairy. It's the same on all the platforms, except for TikTok, because I made an account with that name and then I couldn't work out how to get back into it again. So I've got another one, which I think is official Karen K Fairy or Karen K Fairy official, something like that. And And I share on Instagram. That's my kind of, I really like that platform. It just feels nice. Facebook is okay too. I won't go into the ins and outs of it all, but yeah, I prefer Instagram. It just feels like a nicer environment energetically. But I'm on all of the platforms, and I do a newsletter through my website as well, just telling everybody about what's going on and sharing different things. I've got some things coming up. Obviously, I've got my October fairy weekend, which the theme is witchy fae, and that's because we get lots of pagans and witches and people that come to the events. They're very eclectic, my events, and I wanted to kind of do a nod to the people that follow that pathway. We're coming up to Samhain, and it's just like a really fun theme. So and that's free in the daytimes as well. And then I've got for my new deck, I'm doing a kind of workshop in Glastonbury on the 25th of November, where everybody that comes to that will get a signed copy of my new deck as well, and they'll be the first ones to get it because it doesn't come out until December. So that's on the 25th at the Chalice Well Gardens. So there's loads and loads of things I've got coming up, but the best thing is to go on my website. And then I've got my Fairy Festival website, which is the simple Fairy FAIRY festival.co.uk. And then I've got my Fairy Events website, which is FAERY events.com. And between those websites, you'll find out everything that's going on. Always fun, usually fun, sparkly, and exciting.
And it's such a lovely community, isn't it? The fairy community, as you know, very kind, very, just very compassionate people, and open-minded. It's the sort of people that you just want to hang out with all the time, really.
Yeah, very welcoming, open. I don't find it cliquey. It's just new people coming all the time, people who going and coming, and it's just a beautiful community. Yeah, I love it so much and feel very blessed to have been a part in the foundation of it, really, within the UK, certainly. It's just, very, very blessed.
Thank you for your work, and thank you for your time today, Karen. It's just been wonderful, and the time's just flown by. I always find the time flies by when